On the Fringe with Dan Radio Style. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Much is going on with this craziness in Charlotte specifically. North Carolina specifically. There definitely is a lot of rumors floating around. There seems to be some evidence from secondhand sources, but there seems to be some evidence to suggest something really messed up, very similar to what happened in Lahaina, is currently underway. There's a giant lithium mine that is out there, and they've been buying up land for a long time. We're going to break that down. There's a great little slide on that. Just a whole bunch of stuff going on. Obviously, with the cases going on with Trump, but really kind of center stage is this horrible, horrible experience that's going on, and just the way that they are completely screwing over the people yet once again. And the government apparently doesn't have any money right now. A lot of strange problems. Also want to remind everybody, too, we've got the 90s hits or 90s dance, 90s party music is probably a better way to call it. Essentially, it was just kind of a continuation of last week's show of 80s versions of songs. So kind of similar stuff, just 90s. A lot of fun. Good music going on. I hope you guys enjoy. Hope you have a chance to join us 3 p.m. Pacific on Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. We go live. Of course, can watch it after the effect. It's the only playlist I have on Rumble is of those shows. I think I have to add last week's to the playlist, but outside of that, pretty good about keeping that all together. All said, much to talk about, that is for sure. Start with Helene. It's really kind of the big picture right now, the big place that matters. We're going to start with this. This is just interesting. Don't know if this is truth. I think it is. But here's kind of some of what we're hearing. So a comrade in arms of mine, a fellow OIF vet in the path of destruction in North Carolina, finally came up the net thanks to Starlink and Elon Musk, and he and his family are alive, but things are deteriorating fast. He's a fellow multiple tour Iraq vet and is not prone to exaggeration. You want to know what's really going down, at least one person's perspective in the area? His first update. This entire area is a war zone. Even if not directly destroyed by floodwaters, there are men, women, and children starving without water and sanitation. No fuel. People can't get to any distro points because they have no fuel. People are walking on foot and dragging wagons. The majority of federal and state assets are being diverted to the incorporated areas of Asheville, Black Mountain, etc., and without a deliberate effort yet into the rural, unincorporated areas. People are suffering, and communities are rapidly moving to isolation and self-defense and policing. There are bodies floating down the rivers. There are bodies stuck in the tops of trees. Linemen entering destroyed areas are finding dozens of children as young as 3 walking through the mud near naked, crying for their parents, some with ropes still tied on their arms attached to broken lumber where clearly their dead parents had last-ditch tied them to something. Was talking to a lineman yesterday how he's finding heads and limbs every time debris is removed. Entire communities are just gone. Gone. Nothing to repair, and in some of the areas, just no one to even help anymore. Just bodies, with a stench increasing by the day. The death count will be in the thousands. Desperation is increasing, and most vets are lying on their roofs with rifles. Local rural gas stations, markets, etc. have clear militias forming with men in hodgepodge gear and rifles patrolling. We are self-policing now. Hope he comes back up for an update in the morning. He's currently conserving power and engaged in nighttime security ops. Pray. So this is one of the stories we're hearing. Within 48 hours of the earthquake that struck Haiti in 2011, the 82nd Airborne had arrived from Fort Bragg, North Carolina to Port-au-Prince to render aid. It's been 135 hours, and the DoD still haven't given dual status commands for the NC. They have for Florida, but they still haven't sent the aerial assets and high water vehicles from Fort Bragg that FEMA requested. The 81st is off on a training exercise, and the men from various units trying to get home to help their families in the disaster zone are being denied leave. It is a complete shame and disgrace. Heads should roll. We'll see if they do, hopefully. But this is looking bad on the Harris-Biden administration. Here's a gentleman that is directly involved in flying stuff out there, Rep. Corey Mills. So this is Operation 3 for him, some sort of military craft it seems that he's in, but we'll listen to him.
everyone comes to Corey Mills, 47th District. Quick update. We are in the Costa. We've got more supplies that's coming inbound. We're going to be delivering to Western North Carolina for day 3. This will be about 5 tons of supplies total. Everything from water to diapers to food to non-perishables. We're also bringing in 2 very qualified combat medical combat PJs who will help with bringing in any of the medical supplies necessary, like we did yesterday with insulin, but also help with medevacs and hoist operations. So again, trying to get and fill the gaps the federal government's continue to fall short. As soon as we get on the ground, it's got heavy fog right now, so it's kind of delaying any type of kilo operations. But we'll keep you updated as we get in there and as we continue to deliver and what we're doing with our daily recount. Appreciate all the support. Pray for North Carolina. God bless.
Yeah, so at least there are people that are trying to help. We are aware of people that have been asked to stop helping. I don't think I've actually got that tape today or that video, but I don't know if you guys have seen that one. But a gentleman that was actually doing the flying the people in and out literally was told by a fire chief or somebody that if you continue doing what you're doing, you will be arrested. And so he was told to stop. He said he had to go pick up his co-pilot. They said, if you go up there one more time, we'll arrest you. He went up there one more time to get his co-pilot and actually left and stranded the one guy that was still left. He'd got the dude's wife to safety, and in doing that, he left his son up there with the guy, and he was going to come back and get them both. And all he could do was get his son. Had to leave the man up there. At least he got his wife to safety. But again, these are some of the many, many stories we're hearing. Ivanka Trump, the devastation we witnessed today in western North Carolina was heartbreaking. Hurricane Helene brought 16 inches of water. That's 40 trillion gallons across its path to the region within 24 hours, wiping out homes, buildings, highways, and sometimes whole communities. I was grateful to once again join my friends at City Serve, Love and Life, and Mercy Chefs on their mission to deliver crucial relief to the first responders and families affected by the destruction. Love and Life coordinated air rescues for stranded individuals and delivered and set up over 300 Starlinks donated by SpaceX. Thank you, Elon, to help restore vital communications for fire departments. We provided hot meals, fresh produce from Planet Harvest, and emergency supplies to those in need. God bless all the families affected and the first responders working tirelessly to aid them. Now here's Jesse talking about some of the major F-ups with what's going on with the Harris-Biden administration and their absolute failures.
This is the deadliest hurricane, second in the last 55 years. Only Katrina is deadlier than this. I had no idea how bad this was. The politicians don't know. Many people in this business don't know how bad this is. Joe Biden's administration only one day before went on national television and warned people at a binder briefing, which no one saw. Then today deployed soldiers. Today. FEMA, they say, got there on Monday. No one saw Monday. Still, no one's seen FEMA. People are still missing. There's no power. There's no electric. There's no cell. There's no nothing. George Bush, after Katrina, got ripped for coming 4 days to the site after.
Yeah.
This is now day 5, day 6, if you count.
But
the
also
overnight.
warned for a week for them to evacuate, and they didn't.
Right. They warned. There was really 1 day warning, and it wasn't enough. This is scandalous, how bad this is.
All right.
Yeah, beyond horrible. Beyond horrible with what's happening and how this is playing out. Rep. Anna Paulina Luna is going to point out a really important factoid because we're about to hear some things that are going to make your blood boil because of this fact. There's been $941 million of FEMA's budget, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, just shy of $1 billion of funding has gone to illegals. That's unacceptable and should be illegal itself. This could be used to house Pinella's residents or give them food or some of the things that we can't do right now because as we're hearing, Mayorkas warns FEMA doesn't have enough funding to last through hurricane season. They literally don't have enough funding. So the Federal Emergency Management Agency can meet immediate needs but does not have enough funding to make it through the hurricane season. The agency is being stretched as it works with states to assess damage from Hurricane Helene and delivers meals, water, generators, and other critical supplies. The storm struck Florida last week, then plowed through several states in the southeast, flooding towns and killing more than 160 people. Mayorkas was not specific about how much additional money the agency may need, but his remarks on Air Force One underscored concerns voiced by President Joe Biden and some lawmakers earlier this week that Congress may need to pass supplemental spending bill this fall to help states with recovery efforts. Now, this is another money grab, it sounds like, by the government. And this is, to me, is the deep state probably. This has already been funded. Their emergency management's got a budget already. And frankly, we haven't had hardcore storms this year. We definitely had some. This one, hands down, brutal. This is, like Katrina level. Here's Kamala Harris telling that we're literally offering people that have lost everything $750 in relief. $750. Just like Lahaina, right? Really close anyways.
And the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met. And the
$750. That's it. $750. You lost everything? There's $750. Donald Trump Jr. put this out. Just so we're clear, if we're in for $250 billion in Ukraine and they have a population of 38 million, that leaves over $6,500 per citizen of Ukraine. And we're giving people suffering in the South who lost everything due to hurricane damage $750? You have to be kidding me. Interesting the way we view that, isn't it? The way we think it's so much more important to fund Ukraine in this stupid war, but we can't even take care of our own people. And we're giving $6,500 per citizen to Ukraine, and yet they're still not winning. And of course, we can't afford our own citizens. This is the deep state running. They're stealing money from us. They're stealing money and spending it wherever they want. They are not taking care of the country. They are not taking care of you and I. So people in North Carolina, $750. Illegal immigrants in New York, $2,500, and we get the double middle finger on that. Remember when he got out of jail? Yeah, that guy got $2,500 by the city for just being an illegal immigrant. But if you lose everything, you get $750. But we'll give you, who has nothing, who's here as an illegal person, you're not even legally fucking here, and we're going to give you $2,500. Over 3 times the amount of money. Makes sense. Billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk on Wednesday said that the Federal Communications Commission's decision to not move forward with an award for SpaceX's Starlink to provide rural broadband may have cost lives in North Carolina when it was hit by Hurricane Helene. Musk, the CEO of SpaceX, responded to a post on X from a user who noted that North Carolina would have 19,522 working Starlink kits available today after Hurricane Helene had the FCC not revoked in bad faith the grant that was awarded to SpaceX as the winning bidder. They couldn't be good to Musk, could they? So they took it away. Now nobody has internet. And we know that Team Kamala and her $42 billion project, over 1,000 days to connect poor people to the internet, has to this point connected 0 people. And now they're actually negative 19,000 people, really, because, they're trying to keep people from being hooked up now. So now they're minus 19,522. Well done. Had the FCC not illegally revoked a SpaceX's Starlink award, it would probably have saved lives in North Carolina. Yeah, this is what we're up against. John Rich put this out. Just spoke to a friend of mine in law enforcement in North Carolina. He said that they have, and I quote, already used over 500 body bags, and there are bodies in trees, mud, cars, houses, everywhere. No Fed support whatsoever. I hear they're literally walking into houses to try to see if people are still alive, and they're finding just dead bodies all over inside these houses. Dead bodies everywhere. There's going to be, they say, thousands of people dead. I hope Chris Martenson is incorrect on this, but this sounds like this is quite possibly true. So this evening, from a Peak Prosperity member to me via a PM at my site, was a personal message maybe? He said, them. I can't post this online because it's not quite public yet, but government officials had a town meeting with all of the residents of Chimney Rock and basically told them the town was being bulldozed, bodies and all and the land was being seized by the federal government. They would not be able to move back, and basically their homes, the ones that they were that were standing, were no longer theirs, and the federal government owned it all. I don't know what crazy plan for land this is, but there's a lot of conspiracy about lithium mines, and let me just tell you, as someone who lives in Charlotte and has friends who live in the area of western North Carolina, they are not being helped, and this is actually being a stand-down operation by federal government. Me, what the heck? That's quite disturbing. Is this first-hand, second-hand, or more distant info? Them. Our friend owns an Airbnb in Chimney Rock. They had a town meeting yesterday, and someone from the federal government told them all of these things in the town meeting, but doesn't want the information getting out. Also, they are not picking up the bodies. The stench of the bodies everywhere is insane, and for some reason, the government does not want to pick up the bodies. One pastor of a local church was going to order to door delivering water. It's kind of written funny. He was going door to door, I guess, to deliver water. And they changed their delivery requests to body bags because so many of the homes that they're gone to have needed body bags. We're trying to keep the body count. They're not picking up the bodies. They don't want to identify the bodies, and they're just leaving them to rot in the streets. I'm stunned. This is beyond anything I could have imagined even very recently. You always pick up and bury the dead. It's what humans do. They are violating every possible custom on purpose. Thank you for keeping me informed. People need to know about this. Let me know when you'd be comfortable with me posting to our forums in an anonymized fashion, of course. Them. You can post it if the message needs to get out. Something evil is going on in North Carolina mountains. I just didn't want to be identified. Just today, we filled up a trailer for a shelter in Hendersonville, North Carolina that had no food for tons of moms and babies. Had no food? Picked up a trailer for shelter in Henderson, and it had no food for tons of moms and babies. What is that even right? What's the point then? All the stores around are empty or locked. In Chandler, North Carolina, 2,000 people haven't eaten anything or drank in 6 days and just got an SOS message out for help. I'm trying to tag the Cajun Navy and Operation Airdrop, but people are dying by the minute. Multiple truckers have reported having tires slashed. Our friends from Chimney Rock said they've have heard multiple stories of people being robbed at gunpoint making supply runs. The people that drove down to Charlotte yesterday and today, one that helped said bodies in trees all over ditches in the major road backs. Something weird is going on here in North Carolina. Me, God bless you. Let me know if I can help. Them. Someone with a large national megaphone needs to amplify how bad it is. People are now starting to die trapped. My town is Operation Airdrop North Carolina Central Command. They need pilots with planes and now are asking just for trucks. People with big equipment are needed, but more than anything, the nation needs to put pressure on Washington to deploy the National Guard ASAP. The 82nd was begging to go since Saturday, but has been told to stand down. Every fucking Apache we have should be flying rescue missions. Please amplify the message. I am certainly trying. Red Cross and FEMA and TEMA. This is more very bizarre and, if true, horrific information. Apparently, FEMA and TEMA have arrived, and all donations that has been given to local high school volunteers have been confiscated. Starting with Davy Crockett High School, they are taking over all volunteer schools in Washington County and Greene County. In order for anyone to get donations that was given, they must be approved. All monetary donations have been taken as well as and placed into a TEMA account. The government stole the money. If you are unaware of how that works, those items doesn't all get used for this particular disaster. So people have donated money specifically for this disaster. It's been put into TEMA accounts that will not just be used here. They're going to use it wherever they want. And then give $750 or less. Volunteers have been asked to leave and was told in order to help, they must be trained by United Way. So there's a company we should be looking into, probably shouldn't trust. Please, I know I already made a post on Red Cross and FEMA the other day, but please, if you donate to a church or give to individuals. Yes, do not give to United Way, do not give to Red Cross, do not give to FEMA, do not give to TEMA. They cannot take supplies from churches. Church members will make sure your donations get to the correct hands. We are still taking donations here as well as picking up donations this weekend. Our donations will be going directly to churches for them to help the communities. I know several others that are picking up donations and taking them as well. And if you would rather donate directly to a church for a church to take, I can put you in contact with churches also. So again, a lot is going on all over, and we're just hearing all sorts of crazy stories about the deep state government doing horrific stuff. Lithium battery deposits sit under the ground of Asheville, North Carolina. Mark my words, if something isn't done to save the land that has been devastated by Hurricane Helene in North Carolina, they will be mining or building lithium facilities in the devastated areas of North Carolina. Only 70 miles from Asheville is one of the biggest lithium deposits and factories we have, and they have been buying up land all over the area. Don't believe me? Read the article in the attached post below on the progress thus far and all the land that they have been buying in that exact area. Ask yourself if it is still a coincidence that a once-in-a-century storm just hit that area. For those of you who haven't seen this video of very strange anomalies taking place during Hurricane Helene, videos below as well. I think there's some other interesting stories here. BlackRock Inc. is one of the largest shareholders of the Piedmont Lithium, a company that is developing the Carolina Lithium Project in Gaston County, North Carolina. The Carolina Lithium Project is a multi-phase plan to mine lithium, produce sputamine, sounds gross, but sputamine concentrate, and convert it to lithium hydroxide, which is, I think, used for the batteries, right? So this is more concerning stuff. Isn't it ironic that BlackRock owns shares in Piedmont Lithium, a company starting a $1 billion project in Gaston County, North Carolina? It's expected to produce 60,000 tons of lithium hydroxide annually, and also a crap ton of bad stuff too, pollution. So yeah, coincidence, right? I'm sure. George, I put this here because it just felt like similar. Not that it belongs necessarily here, but it is in the same vein. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp has criticized the Biden-Harris administration for not doing enough to help rural communities across the state after Hurricane Helene devastated a huge swath of the Southeast last week. Kemp vented his frustrations that he had to call the White House to request additional parts of Georgia to be added to the President Biden's disaster declaration because it didn't cover all the counties that suffered damage from the storm. At least 25 people were killed when Helene hit the Peach State. When the first emergency declarations came down, there was only 11 counties in that. A lot of people were outraged, including me, because there was such devastation in up to 90 counties. So failure across the board, everywhere, from the Harris-Biden administration. Again, finances. We've seen the Black Swan event, I think, has actually occurred. The strike is day 2 right now for the ports. Now we've got the financial ruin that's occurring with all these people, and talk about losing their livelihood and everything else. This is one of those things where you don't want to leave it up to the government. You certainly don't want to leave it up to the normal, everyday people to tell you what's up. They are lying to us about everything. Everything. Get out of their system. Get out while you still can. Get out while it's still worth getting out of. You've spent years putting all this money in your 401k and IRA. Get out of it tax-free and penalty-free. Tax-free, penalty-free, get into a precious metals IRA. Protect your wealth. And right now they're performing extraordinarily well. And silver is definitely undervalued by multiples. Gold, still heavily undervalued. We still got a lot of growth coming in both of those two things. But they've grown a bunch since earlier this year. A bunch. They've gone up a lot because of what's happening in the world. Don't wait for it to get worse before you get out. Get out before it gets worse. That's where you're going to do way better, and you're going to end up walking away. Even after everything's said and done, you're going to end up walking away way more positive than if you stay in their system. Get out of their system. Let my good friends at Goldco help you. They can actually help you do it quickly, and it's physical metals. They put them in a trust. That's why it's tax-free and penalty-free. So all of these things happen, and they make sure it happens as quickly as you can possibly work through it all. Go to drslikesgold.com, drslikesgold.com. Get out of their system before they get out of you. That's drslikesgold.com, drslikesgold.com. Biden student loan forgiveness may proceed after a small win in the lawsuit. It sounds like, after reading all this, one, they're letting the restraining order expire. what I also am reading in this article is it sounds like Georgia's couldn't prove that they had any harm by this, any financial harm. So he dropped Georgia from the case. Well, this was being seen in Georgia. So essentially the judge is like, yeah, this probably shouldn't be here. It should probably be over in Missouri's court. So yeah, he's kind of letting it die. Missouri seems to be making noise like this is kind of bad. This is kind of bad, though. Again, I just think the article's written funny. I'm curious, and I think this is going to ultimately get picked up over in Missouri because they are showing financial harm by this. So I wouldn't say this is done for sure, but I'm guarantee that the Biden administration will try to take advantage of the fact that there's a small pause for the cause. And I don't know, maybe we get lucky and they're able to put something in that causes the judge to have to pause it a little bit longer. But he's allowing it to run out, I think, Thursday. Yeah, Thursday, so today, I guess. So we'll see how that all plays out. Atlanta likely to be covered by haze and chlorine odor from chemical lab fire, officials warn. This was that bad fire that broke out on the roof because water contacted a certain substance, and when water contacts that certain substance, it begins to burn immediately and apparently release chlorine gas. Any real good chemist can probably tell you what that stuff is just based off of that. I am not a real good chemist. Chemistry major, but not a real good chemist. It's been a long ass time too. So yeah, I would have to go back to my books and see if I could even figure out what that might have been. Whatever the case is, yeah, a lot of chlorine stuff's going to be coming down. It's not necessarily good for you, but yeah, the government doesn't care about you. Come on. Broken power lines caused deadly Maui wildfire. A new report shows. This is what they're blaming it on now. Apparently, they tried to charge some lines that were down already. So you already had lines down, and then they turn around and charge those apparently, and that's what started the fire, which of course burnt Lahaina and everything that happened. And we saw the crazy stuff, and blue things didn't burn, and just a lot of weird stuff happened in that particular fire. Yeah, so this wasn't a fire in North Carolina. Again, I wonder how many people had blue roofs, and it didn't do any good for them because it's a different story altogether in this particular case. So super nasty problems that we're having. Now, this is common all over. I don't want to spend a bunch of time. I'm gonna, because the Earth's magnetic field is changing. The way the sun is behaving is changing. 8 of 9 planets in our solar system are actually having major climate things happen to them. It's just different. Storms are increasing. The red dot on Jupiter is actually closing, and another one's forming, which has never happened. Mars is warming up. Venus's winds, I think, picked up significantly. Pluto lost like 4/5 of its atmosphere. Something very strange is happening in our solar system. So one thing to keep in mind, we also know the poles have moved. I've tried to share that with you guys, but honestly, they've stopped updating that data, and the government's taken it down. They don't want us seeing that anymore, so that's harder to come by now. That's interesting. But there's also these things that keep happening, and this is happening all over the place, but this is just one good example, and it reminded me to bring it up. So Schoenfeld, the runways of Capital's BER airport are getting new names. Specifically, the names are names for the runway identifiers required for navigation, the airports announced. According to BER, the reason for the renaming is the movement of the Earth's magnetic field. So when you land on, say, runway 70, it's because it's actually aimed 70 on the heading, on the compass. Like if you looked at it's really close to 70 or whatever. So the airports the runways are always numbered after what they align with on the compass, or at least as close to it as they can. Our magnetic fields changed so significantly that they've literally had to rename runways because they've changed too much. So they've literally renamed runways on multiple airports because they were so far off it was actually confusing to pilots. They're like, is my heading right? What's right? So they're like, no, it's off because of magnetic field. Yeah. So I want to play just the beginning of this, but
this is a special space weather.
We took another bigger hit from the same sunspot group. So now we've got 2 CMEs coming at us. This will probably impact in a pretty significant way. Usually when they double up like that, the second one kind of catches up to the first one, almost like it's in a vacuum behind it. But then on top of that, it was a bigger CME. We've got problems happening all over the place, folks.
Weather alert due to inclement solar flare activity. We have coronal mass ejection plasma shock waves coming to Earth from X7 and X9 solar flares. Each produced an eruption of charged material from the corona. Our last 2 videos hit the X7 event and how the CME is expected to arrive tomorrow night, Friday, October 4th. NOAA is forecasting level 1, 2, or 3 geomagnetic storms, somewhere between mild to strong conditions with a good chance for aurora. But now we've got more. Right after the morning show today, an X9 solar flare erupted from the same sunspot group, and it has also produced a coronal mass ejection. The sunspot may not be done yet, so we're going to keep watching, but the last couple hours I've been eagerly awaiting updates to the ultraviolet imagery and the coronagraphs. SDO images pretty clearly show that a CME was released, and the early images from SOHO show another full halo CME, in addition to other CMEs going off the limbs. This one was stronger, likely faster, and is traveling in the cleared wake of the first CME, so it is likely to arrive Saturday, October 5th. Nobody has official storm forecast yet, but if both end up hitting in close succession, we're looking at KP 7 or 8 at a minimum, level 3 or 4 geomagnetic storm conditions, and another low-latitude auroral event, possibly lasting for 2 or 3 days. Now, this is not quite at the scary kill shot level, but there's a greater than 50% chance of network outages, power disruption, and about a 10% chance of major electrical fires, transformer explosions, infrastructure failures, and grid damage. We will have more if necessary, and at very least, we'll be back in the morning for the daily update.
Yeah, very, very, very concerning this time around. This is a legit one. This is a legit warning. Is there anything you can do? No, not particularly. Though I would, if you're really, really concerned, you maybe unplug some stuff, like turn off your computer and unplug it so it's not actually plugged in. That can be some stuff to help because sometimes the electrical lines and power lines and stuff will pick up some charges and do some weird things. Something to consider. But outside of that, there's not a lot. Just got to hope that it's not bad where you're at. Interesting, though, we've been having some interesting outages with the phone companies, with Bank of America suffered a major outage. Tens of thousands of users reported struggling to get cash from ATMs, even talking about how their online accounts, the balances were all wrong or showing zero, which is concerning. Bank of America is definitely one of the banks I don't recommend. I haven't, and do think it's probably one of the worst. But, yeah, that's happening. Supposedly they've gotten it almost all resolved, but there was some major thing that they're aware of that they've been fixing. So again, yeah, glitch, probably a software update, most likely, nonetheless. T-Mobile also suffering nationwide outage as thousands report they have no signal. This happened to Verizon, I think, 1 or 2 days ago, and it could have been right when these CMEs were happening. So initially when the CME happens, it creates like an X-ray pulse, which gets to the Earth in about 7 minutes. It's, say, speed of light. So it gets to the Earth in about 7 minutes and literally can cause immediate issues, just immediately. And then the wind of the coronal mass ejection, or the force of the mass of the ejection, that takes 3 days-ish to get here. That's traveling much, much slower than the speed of light. So very, very different situations that are happening, and that is kind of possibly related. I'm going to say the software glitch, I think with B of A, I think that's a software glitch because they're fixing it, but maybe they had a server that got smoked. You know, that happens too. So crazy stuff going on, folks. Major crazy stuff going on right now. And now is not a time to take anything lightly at all. Got leaked military memo. I'm just going to play a minute of this. This was really good. I think this was put out, Catherine Herridge. Yeah, she's doing a new show or something. And this is actually pretty good. Check it out.
That was the largest ballistic missile attack on U.S. forces in the history of war. None of us really should have survived.
What makes that missile stand out?
The heat signature is much different than the rest of them.
Are these military records an acknowledgement that Iran's ballistic missile attack exposed U.S. service members to toxic agents?
100%.
And it describes radiation, heavy metals.
They absolutely are directly related to those ballistic missiles.
Is there new evidence service members are getting sick?
Yes.
You're monitoring what may be thyroid cancer yourself.
Correct.
We're going to have another Agent Orange situation. 10 years down the road, these service members are going to be out and they're going to be dying. And the court dismissed the case. They said a death had to occur.
Just to be clear, up until this administration, an attempted killing still opened the courthouse doors.
Correct.
So this is a change under the Biden-Harris administration.
It is a change that happened in the past 2 years. Congress has got to step in and act. Both the courts and the executive branch have sided with Iran.
So yeah, they're just so much bad news that keeps coming out around Obama, Obama, yeah, but Harris, Biden, all of these people are a mess. GOP senators reintroduce legislation to deport illegal immigrants convicted of sex crimes. They want to get this right before the elections. They want everybody to understand that they don't consider illegal people committing illegal crimes, specifically sex crimes, as being worthy of deporting. They very much want the Democrats on record with this vote. This is why they're doing it. They know it's not going to pass, but they want to get a fresh vote for everybody to see because it looks horrible on anybody that doesn't support that. One, you're here illegally. Two, you just committed an additional major crime. Three, it was a crime against women. It was a sex crime. And you don't want to do anything about it? You don't want to deport them? That doesn't work well, does it? So Grassley's trying to push this through. We'll see if he has any luck. Republicans debut a bill to stop Biden-Harris funding Brazil-style global censorship. They're just trying to put a stop to this. Jim Jordan, Chris Smith, and Maria Elvira Salazar are introducing a bill on Tuesday to prevent American support of or taxpayers' dollars from funding the censorship of free speech abroad. Meaning we shouldn't be anywhere near any of that, trying to figure out how to keep people from, or how to help countries censor their own people. And I'm sure we're doing that. So anyway, hopefully we are going to put a stop to it. But Brazilian's Supreme Federal Tribunal Minister Alexandre de Moraes, the dictator, he's the equivalent of an American Supreme Court justice, but he's in charge of the entire country. He launched a sprawling nationwide campaign against fake news and alleged misinformation in 2019 that has disproportionately targeted conservative and right-wing voices. Moraes played a role in the 2022 presidential election through his dual role as the then head of the Supreme Electoral Tribunal, outlawing any media mentions of current President Lula da Silva's status as a convicted felon on corruption charges, but taking no action against the Lula campaign's spurious attempts to brand rival and former President Jair Bolsonaro a cannibal. Sounds like what's going on here, right? Like we are a third world nation. Brazil's actually not really even third world, but what's going on there is definitely very third world. Telegram CEO Pavel Durov revealed on Wednesday that the messenger service has been complying with privacy policies in several countries and has been properly disclosing information about criminals to authorities for the past 6 years. I don't know, just in case anybody out there actually thinks there is a messaging platform that is secure, I guarantee you it's not. And if the more it's touted as being secure, the more likely it was created by the CIA or the feds themselves in order to trap criminals, because so far that's what's been happening with most of these apps. So just keep in mind, you don't have, I'd say you have freedom of speech, but that doesn't mean you can discuss crime or discuss doing things that would be considered illegal, like violence and harm towards others. Like, you can't do that in a chat message anywhere. I promise you somebody's seeing that. Promise you. So please don't ever get that in your mind that you've got any form of secure, confidential discussions unless you're literally having a talk with somebody in person, or, there's some ways you can like write letters and do some fun stuff like that, make little ciphers even, which probably would be broken, but still, just saying, that's what's up. Today, America First Legal filed a lawsuit suing the Biden-Harris White House Council on Environmental Quality for illegally concealing records on political appointees, promoting the racist equity agenda, and influencing $600 billion plus in federal programs. FEMA and 18 federal agencies follow the CEQ's guidance. This is part of AFL's ongoing efforts to uncover exactly who is implementing the Biden-Harris agenda across the federal bureaucracy. AFL has filed Freedom of Information Act requests and lawsuits to obtain these records to publish on the Woke Wagon and interactive resume of records and records databases. The Justice 40 initiative is the Biden-Harris administration's goal that 40% of the overall benefits of certain federal climate, clean energy, affordable and sustainable housing, and other investments flow to disadvantaged communities that are marginalized by underinvestment and overburdened by pollution. So far, it has secured approximately $613 billion in funds for more than 500 programs across 19 federal agencies. We're getting to the bottom of it, and this is what we need to do to be able to have someone like Musk come in and start shutting down this stuff. It's going to be a glorious day when we finally get to that point. Thomas Massey warns the DOJ against interfering with the IG's January 6th report. So basically, you better not mess with this. You told us that Inspector General Michael Horowitz, that he's got permission to do this how he wants, release this how he wants. They're basically warning you better not redact it, you better not hide it, you better not keep it from us, because right now they have stonewalled everything. And of course, Democrats on their side are like, well, just Republicans are asking for stuff they don't need to ask for. But if the shoe was on the other foot, or if it was asking for stuff from Trump, they would demand it, or they would say leak it, or they wouldn't care. So again, it's just funny how they can't have the same thing done to them that they're willing to do to us. It's the double standard that keeps the world going. 2 of Georgia's citizens have filed a federal lawsuit against Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. The plaintiffs claim that data from the state's voter rolls and the U.S. Postal Service reveal significant numbers of individuals who have moved out of Georgia but remain registered to vote in the state, violating the National Voter Registration Act. So, cool. And hopefully they have standing, because it does disenfranchise them as voters, so they theoretically should. Good on you guys. This is the types of lawsuits that we need to actually continue to have. These are powerful. Dozens of lawmakers in the White House and Senate, in the House and Senate, are calling for more information from the Justice Department about efforts to stop non-citizens voting in federal elections, which they call a serious threat to election integrity, citing officials in multiple states who have identified non-citizens on their voter rolls. A letter from 73 lawmakers, led by Senator Bill Hagerty from Tennessee, Rep. Andy Biggs from Arizona, and Attorney General Merrick Garland, said they were deeply concerned by reports of non-citizens registered to vote and voting in federal elections, and had not received a response from an inquiry in July on the matter. In July, we're still waiting on it. We're like, well, you can't do it now this late in the game. It's like, we asked for it in July. You dragged your feet. Yeah, we're going to do it this late in the game. It's your fault. As of today, there has been no response from you or your department regarding the inquiry on July 12, 2024, seeking information on efforts undertaken by your department to enforce laws prohibiting non-citizens voting. Given that the 2024 presidential election is in less than 34 days, your department's inaction and refusal to provide any information regarding its efforts to promote public trust and confidence in our elections is especially alarming, they wrote. So yeah, making progress, sort of. Inspector General finds a litany of failures within Homeland Security under the Biden-Harris. A whole bunch of failures all over the place. This is pretty bad. From vetting to screening to releasing foreign nationals who Republicans say pose a national security threat. Its Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was impeached in February by House Republicans for dereliction of duty, including the failures the OIG identified. Recent incidents and disasters highlighted the need for situational awareness throughout the Homeland Security enterprises. They want actionable information on emerging threats with its external partners, but they're not providing that, and I don't even think their tools are even properly being updated. They're not being used, so they're not using their technology to obtain these emerging threats. They haven't given an emerging threat report yet, and they were supposed to start doing that last year, 2023 in May, and they still have yet to give one report, and they're supposed to be giving them, I believe, monthly. So they haven't done it at all. Talk about dereliction of duties. One OIG report found that individuals on the terrorist watch list were being released into the country because of a DHS, U.S. Customs and Border Protection's ineffective practices and processes for resolving inconclusive matches with terrorists on the watch list. Literally just, we'll just err on the side of letting them go into the country. Greatest number of known suspected terrorists have been apprehended under the Biden-Harris administration, with more than 2 million gotaways, those who illegally entered and evaded capture. Law enforcement officials have expressed concerns about not knowing how many terrorists are in the country. Another OIG report found that DHS didn't properly vet Afghanistan nationals admitted to the U.S., or the Haitians, I'm sure, or any of these large scales of groups that they're bringing in here. In another, the OIG found that the CBP and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services vetting of asylum seekers was inadequate. They weren't fully screening or vetting non-citizens applying for admission into the U.S. and still released them. They're not doing anything to make sure we do this safer. And when it comes to unaccompanied alien children, UACs, under the federal government's care, DHS transfers them to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Refugee Resettlement. The OIG for years has identified problems with this program The OIG found that UACs were being sent to live with unvetted sponsors. Background checks weren't being performed on sponsors. Children were being released to alleged gang members and human traffickers. ORR had lost track of roughly 100,000 children, and UACs were being used for child labor. It also found that ICE was incapable of monitoring unaccompanied minors released into the U.S. It's just insane, all the failures that they found. And this is in the Department of Homeland Security. Mayorkas, his department. It's an absolute mess. Absolute mess. Feds charged 5 UM students from China amid an FBI counterintelligence probe. There's some prosecutors charged 5 University of Michigan graduates from China who they were found on a military facility in northern Michigan last year during a U.S. National Guard training exercise with members of the Taiwanese military. In the criminal case filed Wednesday, FBI Special Agent Caroline Julie Ploys, she describes an encounter last year at Camp Grayling as a 147,000 acre training facility. 147,000, yeah, good. Controlled the Michigan National Army Guard, 52 miles east of Traverse City. The 5 were found with cameras near numerous military vehicles, tents, and classified communications equipment during the Northern Strike, one of the largest U.S. National Guard training exercises in the United States. Essentially, they were spying, so not cool, that's for sure. At least we stopped them. A federal judge on Wednesday blocked a California measure restricting the use of digitally altered political deepfakes just 2 weeks after Governor Gavin Newsom signed the bill into law. The ruling is a blow to a push by the state's leading Democrats to rein in misleading content on social media ahead of Election Day. Chris Coles, known as Mr. Reagan on X, sued to prevent the state from enforcing the law after posting an AI-generated video of a Harris campaign ad on the social media site. He claimed the video was protected by the First Amendment because it was parody. The judge agreed. Suckers. Adam Schiff, of course, still trying to silence Americans. He's demanding that social media companies ramp up censorship of Americans for misinformation and disinformation on behalf of the Democratic Party. Why? Because truth will destroy the Democratic Party. And anybody on the left would say, like, no, Dan, it's not truth. It's the lies that all you crazy people believe. But here's the thing. If something's a lie, the best way to disinfect a lie is with sunlight. Get it out there. Let people tear it apart. The problem with the Democrats, or the problem the Democrats have, is they don't have any logical arguments to get out of the things that we're saying. That's the problem that they have. We have actual facts on our side. They have emotional arguments that don't work when there's facts. So, yeah, the Democratic Party is really in a tough place right now, which is fun to watch, frankly. I'm enjoying it. HBO is mum on why they left out information of Nancy Pelosi admitting that the National Guard was her fault. The fact that they weren't there, the security of the Capitol was in her responsibility. That was her mouth saying it to her daughter, recording her the day of January 6th as they were sensationalizing all of this. HBO was asked, hey, why'd you guys cut out that information? It seems like that would be relevant information, and they haven't responded yet. Now, how we got a hold of that information is pretty cool. It was actually shared because of a senator on the Oversight Committee was trying to get this information, and so they had to send it to them. And once they got a hold of the information and they found that fun little quote where Nancy Pelosi admits that it's her fault, and we know that they deleted all the January 6th information, proof for whatever they had put together. So again, this is all super bad. And I hope nothing's ever truly deleted. For that to actually be true, it's going to have to come out at some point as evidence that it is, in fact, true. I think most of us believe it is true. But we'll see what happens, because they tried to get rid of all that stuff. Were they able to fully get rid of it? Or were we able to somehow maintain copies of some way, shape, or form? Or did we maybe have a mole in that group? I always wonder that too. Anything's possible, but we'll see. The dark sticks to themselves pretty well. But yes, mum's the word, it seems. What do we got here? Oh, yes. FBI. So they entrap this fake assassin. This is a really long article to ultimately get to the point that they knew that this threat was coming in. I want to say he was Pakistani. Intelligence agency. They said the Iranians are promiscuous assassins and they hate Trump more than anyone else on earth. So Trump enforced sanctions against Iran, yada, yada, yada. The Islamic Republic definitely has it out for Trump, but it seems this most recent Iranian plot to kill the Republican candidate was hatched by the FBI. Seems last month the DOJ announced it had charged a Pakistani national with ties to Iran in connection to a plot to assassinate a politician or U.S. government official on U.S. soil, according to reports. Supposedly Trump was the target. So we found out the FBI actually arranged his entry. They let him in. They gave him special status so he could come in for intelligence purposes. So they kind of let this patsy in. And then they try to either A, take advantage of him, B, maybe get him to do something they shouldn't. Whatever the case was, they ultimately end up trying to tie this murder plot to him. So I think, best I can come up with, is so they can look like they're actually doing something, because the people that actually want to kill Trump, that they've probably been somewhat behind, like Ruth or possibly even the other kid's name, right? Probably behind those. We know the shooter, the actual shooter, that guy, I can't remember his name anymore. How sad is that? There's been 2 shooters, and we were talking about Ruth more. But that dude who had his head blown up, he was definitely supposedly talking to an FBI agent. We had some geofencing that was suggesting there was somebody that worked down in that D.C. area right by the FBI office, which would be a government person in general, that was actually going to his work and to his house. So something strange was going on with all this stuff. So here we have the FBI claiming to catch somebody that it sounds like they either A, were trying to utilize and it didn't work, and so they just decided to arrest him so they could get some positive press. I don't know. It feels something weird along those lines. I don't think it's anything like the DOJ is trying to act like they actually saved, Trump from getting shot. And it's like, no, this is probably a failed assassin on your part. But yeah, this is low. This is a low intelligence person that they were able to cultivate here, says Friend. What if he just at one point had a moment of clarity and said, hey, this is a huge lift. I don't have the logistics. I don't have the financing. Why don't I just grab a giant knife and stab an infidel? But that's not something the FBI ever takes into consideration, because they don't think about the people they're supposed to be protecting. Right. They don't care about us. That's for sure. Want to remind you guys, the sale is coming to an end. The free shipping is going bye-bye, and the $25 ding is going bye-bye. I think both of these things are going bye-bye. So, again, I would take major advantage of it. And plus, on top of that, we've got the huge blowout sale, because the big block store was going to get a bunch of these pillows, somehow got out of that contract deal, whatever, and stuck Mike Lindell with a bunch of these pillows, or he manufactured too many of them, whatever the case was. It's our benefit, because normally they're $29.99, which is a really good price for the best pillow I've ever used in my life. And they're like half that now. It's incredibly inexpensive right now. You're literally getting big box prices. This is what they buy them for, and then they charge you $40, $50. Yeah, that's how they do it. This is exactly the price you would get. So go to mypillow.com/OTF. That's mypillow.com/OTF. Take advantage of the free shipping on anything over $75. Also take advantage of all the $25 deals. They've got sheets for under their $24.98 right now. They've got towels of every kind for $25. We got the cool 6-piece set. I highly recommend it. But they got the dish towels. They've got the beach towels, all $25. Pillows of every kind. They've got 2-pack multi-use My Pillows that have like cool little biblical phrases or like cool political stuff, or like the country, God bless America type stuff, patriotic stuff. So yeah, those. We've also got, again, more towels. We've got blankets and pet blankets, pet beds. We got all that stuff, $25. A lot of incredible deals. Take advantage of them while you can, because this stuff's going bye-bye as of this weekend. This weekend they're toast, no mas. So go to mypillow.com/OTF. That's mypillow.com/OTF. Just use the OTF code. You're going to still get the same savings, but when you go to this page, it actually gives you a phone number where if you're talking to my people, and I actually get credit for anything you buy through the phone number. So if you want to call and talk to somebody and ask questions, do that. You're still going to be helping the channel out. So go to mypillow.com/OTF. Get the best night of sleep you've ever had. And you certainly will. Cybersecurity idiot in our country. She's the head of cybersecurity, by the way. Probably a DEI hire, I guess, because she's an idiot. Absolute idiot. Total 100% guaranteed idiot, and we know that for fact. And we'll talk about it in a second. But nearly a month out from Election Day, the head of the nation's cybersecurity agency is forcefully reassuring Americans who have been swept into the chaotic churn of election disinformation and distrust that they will be able to feel confident in the outcome. This is AP, so this is why it sounds so stupid. State and local election officials have made so much progress in securing voting, keep this in mind, ballot counting and other election infrastructure that the system is more robust than it has ever been. But wait, I thought it was totally secure. I thought we had no problems. Now, we know for fact we do. We know for fact that the encryption codes are stored in plain text. That's been adjudicated in courts. That's fact. That's been admitted as evidence. We also know for fact that the admin password is the same on multiple states' machines. We know that as a fact. And yet this lady's saying that we have the most robust, safest, securest election when we know that the passwords for the voting machines themselves are public. Literally public. They did a story. I don't think they should have said it out loud, but they said it out loud. I'm going to play it too. I didn't say it though. But this is not the most secure, but now they're saying they've made so much progress. Well, it would imply that we weren't secure before, or we were far less secure before. How do you want to phrase that? But now we're so much more secure. In fact, they said malicious actors, even if they tried, could not have an impact at scale much that there would be a material effect on the outcome of the election. Oh, hell yeah, they could. Easily. They can get into the vote counters. They can adjust the counts. They've got the admin password. They could do anything at huge numbers. This is insane that this retard is saying this. Jen Easterly, you are a very sorrowful individual. You're an idiot, I guess, or you're ignorant. I'm not sure which. You definitely are wrong. That's for sure. How do I know that? Oh, I've got some stuff. Here might be an example. Well, this was actually, this is pretty cool. John Harold was kind of sort of making fun at the second part. So the second part was really, really cool. How would you feel if you asked your spouse if they were cheating on you and they responded with, not at a scale that would impact our relationship? If that was their answer, would you feel secure in your relationship? No. Not at all, would you? Yet that's her response, so that was pretty damn funny. Good job, John Harold. Smart guy. I like him. Here is where they talk about the password. Just absolute insanity, folks. Absolute insanity. And again, I don't know why they say that out loud, but it's kind of got to force them to change it now, unquestionably. Any machine that has that password now has to be changed. So that's good. At least that probably will come from this, but all said.
What are the biggest takeaways on Monday and what this will mean going forward?
Well, there are several, but I think the biggest one is kind of the clips you played, is that our elections are wide open. And this isn't just Georgia. It applies to any state that uses, so far as we've seen, all the experts, every database that they've looked at with Dominion is the same thing. And there's really no legitimate reason. I think this is a key point. There's no legitimate reason that you would store encryption keys in this way, in plain text. And for people that don't understand don't know what we're talking about, don't know what this means, it's literally, if like you're using online banking, anything that you want to keep information confidential, private, and secure, you encrypt it. So you have to have keys in order to encrypt and decrypt. And obviously, Marcy's a much better expert than I am, but it's a basic principle in cybersecurity. So to leave these out in the open so anyone with access can then get in, and then this was one of the big bombshells. During the hearing, you get the keys and then you look up what the administrative password is. It's the same password they've been using since 2008. And it's DVS Corp 08 exclamation point. That's it. And multiple states have been using it. So when he says your home computer, you've probably had to change your password. I mean, gosh, anytime you log in, I have to change my password. Oh, you used the previous password. I mean, this is insane. These are our votes. And that's, by the way, illegal. You cannot use a vendor supplied password in Georgia. So all they're asking for is follow the law. They have to be EAC certified. This clearly violates, these aren't encrypted. They're not secure. It violates those standards. It violates the law. Enforce the law. That's all they're asking. It won't affect the election. They're asking for security and transparency. And who would object to that, especially when we know just how vulnerable and, quite frankly, a joke these systems are?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Are
they
the biggest takeaways.
Okay, that's weird. They're absolute joke. These systems are not secure, nothing close to secure like they're claiming they are. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of Trump comments, and then we've got a couple other things too where I think this is Trump's. Oh, this is just funny. This is Chris Cuomo. So this is talking about, I guess, I hope you guys have heard the story that Emhoff, the first husband, I guess, has a history in the past anyways, at least one time that's come out. I don't know if it's happened to others, so I don't know. But he struck his girlfriend at the time. They were supposedly drinking. He didn't like the way she talked to the valet. He smacked her. She smacked him back. So what's funny, and this is what Chris Cuomo's talking about, is like if this was Trump, this would be on every single major news story everywhere. No one's talking about this. Why is it? It's kind of funny. It's sort of a double standard. And so I like it because I think Chris actually utilizes that as an excuse to bring up a story he probably shouldn't talk about either. Kind of funny.
If the name were Trump instead of Emhoff, it would be all over the news. Daily Mail, echoed by the New York Post, has a story. Doug Emhoff, Kamala Harris's husband, accused of striking a woman he was on a date with at the Cannes Film Festival back in 2012. They had been drinking, and he didn't like how she talked to the valet. He smacked her. She smacked him back.
You do not get very often people coming forward named, and the reason is they're worried about retaliation. These are very powerful people we're talking about. 3 friends all saying they were told the same thing. 2 of them contemporaneously. This woman, Jane, we're calling her, she called one of the friends immediately after the incident. That's what this friend told me.
Ordinarily, I don't care about these stories. You could say, well, there may have been an assault.
Maybe.
Well, she didn't go to the police. He's not really running. But again, if it were Trump or anyone related to him, it would be on every TV show that is on right now.
Yeah, it would be for sure. Every single TV show, it would be out there. So craziness in that and how it plays out. So again, prosecutors lay out new evidence in the Trump election case and accuse him of having resorted to crimes. This is Jack Smith's thing. He's saying this was him doing it as a private citizen, not as presidential, whatever. But it shouldn't be coming out right now. The fact that it's coming out right now, Trump is obviously not happy about. Team Trump has comments. This is his campaign manager guy making a comment, and then we'll get a comment from Trump here after a bunch of his Truth Social comments.
Right now, this is Stephen Chung, the Trump campaign spokesman, saying that the release of the falsehood-ridden, unconstitutional J6, referring to January 6th brief, immediately following Tim Walz's disastrous debate performance, is another obvious attempt by the Harris-Biden regime to undermine American democracy and interfere in this election. Deranged Jack Smith, again quoting from the spokesman in Washington, D.C., radical Democrats are hell-bent on weaponizing the Justice Department in an attempt to cling to power. President Trump is dominating, and the radical Democrats throughout the deep state are freaking out. The entire case is a partisan, unconstitutional witch hunt that should be dismissed entirely, together with all of the remaining Democrat hoaxes. This again from a Trump campaign spokesman. Of course, all of this back and forth on redacted material that has now been made public from Jack Smith's investigation, born of a Supreme Court decision that said essentially actions by a president in office, you can't touch them.
Yeah, so again, we'll see what happens. Trump is, I don't think, guilty, but whatever. We'll keep hearing more about it. Donald Trump truthed the bunch about all of this. He was very, very pissed off, so I'm going to read through a few of these here. I think 5 of them, so forgive me. Democrats are weaponizing the Justice Department against me because they know I am winning, and they are desperate to prop up their failing candidate, Kamala Harris. The DOJ pushed out this latest hit job today because J.D. Vance humiliated Tim Walz last night in the debate. The DOJ has become nothing more than an extension of Joe's and now Kamala's campaign. This is egregious prosecutorial misconduct and should not have been released right before the election. The Democrat Party is turning America into a third world country that tries to censor, harass, and intimidate their political opponents. What they have done to our justice system is one of the great all-time tragedies. So extraordinarily true. Donald Trump also continues. The Democrat Party is guilty of the worst election interference in American history. They are trying to destroy our democracy, allowing millions of people to enter our country illegally. They are determined to stop us from winning back the White House, sealing the border, and making America great again. But they will fail, and we will save our nation. God bless that we do. The release of this falsehood-ridden, unconstitutional J6 brief immediately following Tim Walz's disastrous debate performance and the 33 days before the most important election in the history of our country is another obvious attempt by the Harris-Biden regime to undermine and weaponize American democracy and interfere in the 2024 presidential election. Deranged Jack Smith, the hand-picked prosecutor of the Harris-Biden DOJ, and Washington, D.C.-based radical left Democrats are hell-bent on continuing to weaponize the Justice Department in an attempt to cling to power. Trump is dominating the election cycle, leading in the polls, and the radical Democrats throughout the deep state are totally freaking out. This entire case is a partisan, unconstitutional witch hunt that should be dismissed entirely, just like the Florida case was dismissed. Oops. For 60 days prior to an election, the Department of Injustice is supposed to do absolutely nothing that would taint or interfere with a case. They disobeyed their own rule in favor of complete and total election interference. I did nothing wrong. They did. The case is a scam, just like all of the others, including the documents case, which was dismissed. Prices are too high. The consumer is angry at this incompetent administration. Kamala has no idea how to bring prices down. She is afraid to even discuss it with the fake news media. Even worse than her VP candidate, she doesn't even have a clue, but I do, and it will happen fast. Yes, we actually believe that, don't we? Here's Donald Trump basically telling us what he thinks about this Jack Smith crap from his own mouth.
Know that Special Counsel Jack Smith had filed court documents calling your actions in the aftermath of the 2020 election, quote, a private criminal effort. Can you respond to that?
He's a deranged person. I call him deranged Jack Smith. He just lost the big documents case. That was the biggest of them all. They said the documents case, and they said that was the toughest of them all. Let me tell you, we just won it, and it was won strongly and completely. And it was a total victory in Florida. And he is a person who is trying, and he works for Kamala and he works for Joe. This was a weaponization of government, and that's why it was released 30 days before the election. And it's nothing new in there, by the way, nothing new. They rigged the election. I didn't rig the election. They should have never allowed the information to come before the public. But they did that because they want to hurt you with the election. It's pure election interference to get an incompetent person like Kamala. She's grossly incompetent. She's more incompetent than Biden to get these people elected.
Yeah, she's a mess. Trump not pulling any punches, obviously. The Biden-Harris NARA, the Biden lawyers, and Obama's legal representatives just delayed the release of Biden's vice presidential records, including records on Hunter Biden and his foreign business dealings, until November 6th, 2024. Why? Because it will affect the election. This is election interference. They're delaying information that the American people, much like the laptop, that would affect how American people vote. They're actually hiding that information. And meanwhile, they're having their DOJ completely attack their political opponent. I mean, this is like what Brazil's doing. This is like Venezuela. This is stupid. Literally trying to put their political political opposition in jail. Insanity. Absolute insanity. Prosecutors are asking Judge Cannon to slow the Ruth case down and designate it as a complex case due to the voluminous discovery that they've come across. And its volumes. First off, just data-wise, just from video, still images, and text files and audio files, they're saying there's about 4 petabytes, or 4,000 terabytes, or 4 million gigabytes. It's a lot of information. So they got a crap ton of information. They've still got 100 outstanding subpoenas. They've 13 search warrants, I think, thus far. So there's just a crap ton of information. So they're slow walking it because it's going to take forever to dig through all this. That's fair in my mind. I mean, I don't think we're going to get an answer before the election, nor kind of should we. In the case of Ruth, obviously the other guy, the kid, we should know a lot more about him. We don't. It's kind of strange. Melania Trump talked to Hannity and just talking about how she feels about the day of stuff and the day of the election. And just, does she stress? Does she not? And it's kind of cool what she says. Check it out.
What's this process like for you?
As you said, it's a long process, and you just need to be in it and enjoy it as much as you can. Also, you need to be very focused and take it day by day. Some surprises come as well, so it is very important that you prepare for those surprises.
What's election day and election night like for you? I'm sure if I was on the ballot, I would imagine I'd probably be a wreck.
Well, as I explained in my book, I'm very calm. That's maybe my personality. And because I know on the election day, it's all in the people's hands. Yeah. People decide what they want for this country. And it will be again this year on November 5th.
Yeah. What's this process?
So yeah, it's going to be a big deal when it happens, obviously, and is coming 33 days, I guess, away, right? Almost there. So yeah, National Archives delaying the release of Biden's VP records, stuff that's going to show where Hunter went and all that. Just reminding you, should have been, but well, it really shouldn't have been listed twice. Didn't need to be. All said. Russia has frozen some assets at some U.S. banks. The Moscow Region Arbitration Court on Wednesday ordered the freeze of funds belonging to two U.S. banking majors, J.P. Morgan Chase and the Bank of New York Mellon. The measures reportedly affects nearly 93.5 billion rubles, or about $1 billion, held by the institutions and their subsidiaries in the country. The interim measure has been taken under a case filed with the court by Russia's prosecutor general late last month. The filing is the latest in a string of cases revolving around the liquidation of the International Reserve Bank, MR Bank, a subsidy of a Russian major Sberbank, by the Ukrainian authorities in early 2022. At the time of its liquidation, MR Bank held nearly $372 million at the two U.S. banks, including some $250 million with the Bank of New York and $121 million with J.P. Morgan. The funds ended up out of reach of Sberbank and its main shareholder, the Russian government, due to actions of the Ukrainian authorities and financial restrictions introduced by the U.S. So essentially the U.S. is like, F you, we're not letting you have your money. So Russia's like, F you, we're taking it. So they took control. Again, I think when you treat people poorly and then they do the same thing back to you, you shouldn't be surprised. This is pretty gnarly. It's a hyperbaric bomb that was apparently used in Ukraine. I don't know if it was used recently or not. The claim is that it was, but I don't know. I don't know if this is new footage or not. But it is a big explosion. They call it the father of all bombs. At least this is what the experts are suggesting is the weapon they used, the ODAB 9000, a 3-ton glide bomb, sometimes referred to as the father of all bombs. But yeah, it is a brutal weapon, a vacuum bomb, as they call it, or I think hyperbaric, I think is correct as well, as far as terminology is concerned. But yeah, it sucks all the oxygen out of an area, and literally it suffocates people. It's a pretty rough way to go, kind of. I mean, you literally suffocate to death. You don't die from the blast as much as you do from the intense lack of oxygen. Yeah, it's very bad. It'll literally suck it from, like, if your nose is like, I don't know if you have like plugged up and closed up, like maybe you'd survive it, but it'd probably pop you too. So I don't even know if there is a way to get around it. But yeah, pretty nasty indeed. Doug Emhoff apparently paid $80,000 hush money to silence up this chick that he had this little smack fest with. They said he was never prosecuted, and that's not really a big deal in my mind at all. And here's why. Because she hit him back. Here's the thing. When you hit somebody and then they hit you, like that's like assault from both sides kind of. Now, again, if it's self-defense, the chick might have had a case, but whatever. The hush money probably was it. And Emhoff is such a soy boy, it doubtfully didn't even hurt the chick. But whatever. Basically, they're both committing crime in that case, as far as I'm concerned. Got some major Diddy stuff. This was a video, caused a little problem for me earlier today. We're going to go for it again. It should be okay. All said, this is... We've got some very interesting people that are in the know on a lot of these Diddy parties and stuff like that. And they, this lady in particular, I forget her name, but she is calling out Beyonce. specifically. Again, alleged stuff, I don't know, but she's supposedly been in the loop on a lot of this. She's been a major whistleblower within the community. She's been blackballed because of it, but still talking. And she had Pierce Morgan had her on, and it was interesting. Well, kind of want to hear it, and there's a couple other things we're going to share that are interesting around Diddy and what's starting to come from all of it. Whoops. Let's try this again.
How many victims potentially do you think there could be?
Thousands. Thousands. I've talked to hundreds that I deal with still myself. I have 3 victims right now who are willing to give testimony about not only what Mr. Carter has done to them, but his wife as well. They're a nasty little couple. They do nasty things.
What do you think happened with Kim Porter?
Keeping people against their will. Putting people on planes while they're unconscious, just like Aaliyah got on that plane. Unconscious. There's a lot of things that people don't want to talk about, Pierce.
Listen, like I said, Jay-Z and Beyonce are not here, unfortunately, to respond to that.
I know. I'm just being honest with you.
You're perfectly entitled to your views, obviously. Kim Porter,
Yes.
a new book claims that Diddy may have been involved in her early death. What do you think of that?
I think people should really look into that more. I am friends with Albie Shore. I love him. I love his children. I knew Kim. We used to all hang out together at the Kit Kat Club back in the mid-90s when Diddy was first starting his reign. I watched that whole thing happen. And everything that Albert has been through, every attempt on his life that has been ignored by the authorities, it all leads back to Diddy. And everyone knows it. The wiretapping of the phones, putting air tag on children during visits. These are normal practices that these people do.
Jaguar, I've got to leave it there. I really appreciate you joining me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for caring.
I do care. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the next guy's kind of a douche, doesn't like her, and so I don't know who he is, but I don't frankly care. This is more of the crazy stuff that's kind of going on. So now we got Beyonce's ex-drummer sought a restraining order and accused her of dark magic. I think this is more weird stuff that's coming out. This is about Beyonce now.
Guys, I cannot make this stuff up. Beyonce's ex-drummer of 7 years, she is seeking a restraining order against Beyonce. She's accusing her of dark magic, witchcraft, tapping into her phone bill, and basically controlling her finances, harassing her. She's saying the Beyonce camp is put up a huge harassment campaign against her, and it's overall witchcraft. She's sought a restraining order in the past. It got denied, and she has another one scheduled for October 11th, but the internet is just like, what? Excuse me? And, I was just at the Beyonce concert last week in Houston. It was definitely a religious experience, but I didn't expect any, I didn't experience any witchcraft whatsoever, but I'll be interested to see how this plays out.
You did experience witchcraft. You just don't realize what witchcraft is. You partook in a ritual. That's what you did going to that concert. So, yes, you were a part of witchcraft. You just didn't realize it. Here is more. Author of Kim Porter's tell-all book. This guy's starting to open up vaults of stuff now.
The book alleges that Diddy kept a vault of tapes documenting his alleged sexual encounters. Was there any hard evidence that such a vault existed?
The sources say there was a vault that existed, yes. And some of the tapes were flown out of the country on a private jet. That's from the sources directly, so I have to believe them. If she's angry, if she was abused, if she's fighting back, because we know through, and I'm going to reveal some of these other things that are on the drive that discuss why she was doing it and when, okay?
So you
She
didn't.
wanted-
These are other things that you didn't include in.
Correct.
And why did you keep that out?
Correct, because I can't reveal everything at once. It's too shocking. If I was to release those tapes, the world would shut down. Okay? If I showed one of these tapes,
So
I'm telling you right now, the whole music industry and Hollywood, it would just grind down like this. They're all going to start pointing at each other like this, and it's going to be bad. We've already set it up. We have multiple attorneys. We know how to do it. It's not my first rodeo. I solved the greatest murder case in history. 3 of them. I know how to do it. We're going to do it, but just going to come in pieces. And there's also ways we can, let's say, not censor it, but we can kind of soften it, right? Like the whole tape doesn't have to come out. All the tape. I don't have all the tapes. There's other people that have the tapes. I can't control them. We already know they're shopping in Hollywood. We have proof of other people telling us. We actually didn't have that one they showed. So there's multiple out there. Remember, this has been going on for 30 years. So I'm not the only one who has them. I think I have specific ones that no one has. But so.
Yeah, it's coming out, guys. Things are coming out. The deep state's freaking out right now. And again, I kind of wonder if they're going to be able to keep themselves safe. Diddy is one person. If he survives this, it'll be interesting. Supposedly he's in isolated. He's by himself now. Probably the safest way to keep him safe, but he still gets fed. He could be poisoned. Who knows? Any number of ways they could still get him in. So he's I guess in isolation. I don't know the term. I'm drawing a blank on the stupid term, but when you're just by yourself. So there's a lot of very common people that are caught up in this and never thought anyone would ever find out. And there might be a number of people that maybe have been to parties, but the stuff that I've been hearing on some of the crap I don't share per se is people knew to leave the Diddy party before Diddy showed up. So like they knew when Diddy was going to get there at like 9 or whatever, that's when it became a freak show. So they'd show up to these parties and have a good time with everybody, like just normal, normal party, I guess, like whatever. And then they would leave before it got crazy. So we'll probably see, people that maybe get caught up in this that weren't necessarily guilty. I mean, I don't think necessarily everyone that went to Epstein Island necessarily did illegal things. Probably many did. Most probably did. But I'm hoping anyways that there was some people that were like, oh, no, I don't want to. Oh, I'm a minor. Do you have anyone that's like an adult? Like, you got any 30-year-olds back there? I'll take one of them. Beautiful 30-year-old. That'd be great. Thanks. Get her. So, yeah, like, not always sickos everywhere, but those that got taken advantage of, and were also the ones that got promoted to the bigger companies, like that got control of Apple. They were the CEO of Apple or whatever, right? Like, I mean, that was initially Jobs, but whoever the hell it is now, I forget who it is. This is interesting information on underground tunnels. They've been happening for a long time. This guy speaks about, and this was really for me when the entire ground broke open as far as what was happening underground, some of the crazy things that were occurring, salacious things. And one of the most famous stories for me anyways was the Dulce, New Mexico information. And I would say it was probably late 90s. Right around 2000, because I remember the radio station I was working at, and we had a T1 line. So man, I was like always looking for stuff to download. That was back when Napster was happening. So I had a little zip drive. I'd fill it up with music every night, and then I'd print out a bunch of news stories, and I'd read them throughout the day, and then I'd come back and do it again. And this is when I read about the Dulce, New Mexico stuff, and it was hardcore. And there was vats of body parts. There were hybrids of mixtures of humans and animals. There was aliens for sure. There was this battle that happened under there with, I want to say it was Wackenhut security at the time. And they got in a battle with these beings. Got pretty much beat up pretty hard too. So again, there's a lot of interesting stories that have been out for a long time. And it's funny, like a lot of people will start sharing stuff with me like this. Like they'll shoot me an email like, you heard of this? I'm like, yeah, I read about that like 30 years ago. And they're like, huh? How? And it's like, you'd be amazed. It was much easier to find stuff back then actually than it is now. Now they've actually created a whole bunch of fake narratives that people believe way more than the real narratives. It's a really, really interesting thing. But wherever. it is. But anyway, there's a lot of tunnel boring machinery and experience, and I thought this was a fascinating 5-minute show here. I'll close out before, and we'll close out with this video. But I love you guys, shoulder to shoulder. I'm going to keep fighting with you. And where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.
The tunnels beneath Chabad headquarters in Brooklyn were immediately filled in with cement, ensuring that there would be no investigation to conflict with the nonsensical cover story that they were recently dug in response to the COVID lockdowns. In today's pop culture, it is speculated that they are related to child sex trafficking, which is indeed a horrific problem with the human race. But there seems to be something more to these tunnels. Tunnels leading underground are one of Earth's greatest mysteries and can be found all over the world and all throughout history. Phil Schneider, a structural engineer who spent 17 years as a military contractor building deep underground military bases, went on a tour giving lectures and blowing the whistle on what he witnessed. He claimed there were 129 deep underground bases in America alone, all of which were the size of a small city. He found that some of these underground bases were connecting to ancient underground tunnels and cave networks that were inhabited by a non-human species, which he ran into while building an underground base beneath Dulce, New Mexico. Schneider said that the Dulce area was a hub of underground bases, all connected by a high-speed underground rail system. Less than a year after blowing the whistle, Schneider died under suspicious circumstances. Dulce, New Mexico is 170 kilometers from the Four Corners, an area known for the skinwalkers, who the Hopi tribe describe as a non-human species that live underground. Dulce is 260 kilometers from Scientology's heavily guarded underground Trementina base. And Dulce is 200 kilometers from Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch, which is known to have an 8,000 square foot underground level and is rumored to lead even deeper underground. According to several prominent scientists who Jeffrey Epstein had as guests, Epstein hoped to seed the human race after a cataclysm by impregnating 20 women at a time at the Zorro Ranch. According to researcher Christopher John Bajorkness, the goal of breeding Jewish seed lines with Gentile women is the fulfillment of Kabbalistic legends of Samael and Lilith. According to Bajorkness, the Kabbalistic teachings include a geocentric model of the earth with an underworld that extends 7 levels beneath the surface, where a reptilian species lives. These legends foretell a cleansing of the earth when everyone on the surface will perish, and only those in the underworld will survive. High-level Freemasons allegedly believe in a hollow earth, where a non-human species rule from an underworld called Agartha, and their most guarded secrets seem to revolve around a cyclical cataclysmic event. Phil Schneider also built submarine bases and said that most were connected to the vast network of deep underground bases. Ghislaine Maxwell had a submarine license and was known to transport people to Epstein Island through an underwater submarine port. The U.S. military built a submarine base on St. Thomas Island, which is just 13 kilometers from Epstein Island. And right next to this submarine base is Water Island, owned by Joe Biden's brother and their business associate. In a recent interview on Iconic, Juliette Bryant, who was kidnapped by Jeffrey Epstein for 2 years, said that she never witnessed any of the dozens of girls there being trafficked to any men other than Epstein. But she did wake up once paralyzed on a lab table and witnessed Epstein shapeshift into something else.
You know, and I still want to know why exactly I was taken there, because there's a lot more weird stuff going on, because, you know, I didn't see any girls getting trafficked to other men. So there's something else that they were doing.
That's fascinating in itself, and we have a lot of talk, and this doesn't get spoken about that much, but it's the kind of cloning DNA part that he was, obviously transhumanism, that he was interested in. Did that come up anywhere? Did you see any signs?
Well,
I mean, obviously there's scientists.
I'm just going to put it out there right now. I woke up in a laboratory there one night.
Wow.
You know, these are the things I haven't wanted to talk about because it's frightening. But there were scientists there, you know, and I woke up one night in a laboratory, paralyzed and naked on a table. I would like to be lie detected on this. You know, there are other weird things that I saw. I saw Epstein shift in front of my eyes. It was very, very frightening, and it's just something that I had to explain to myself because I saw him turn into something.
Greg Reese reporting.